for next year. Continued getting the squad together for their first year is the Ottawa Races, who've signed 26-year-old front rower Clement Boyer ahead of their inaugural campaign in 2021. Boyer has made more than 110 career appearances for Toulouse, Halifax and Albi. He has also earned 2 caps for France.
Yeah, so it'd be interesting if, depending on what happens, if they are definitely allowed to start, or who knows what's going to happen.
Yeah, I mean they've got the makings of a squad there now, haven't they? Whether they be playing out of somewhere in England for the first half of next year at least.
Lee, Preston, all places that have been talked about.
Yeah, wait to see, but they're certainly doing the business in terms of getting a side together that can compete at the League One level. That's for sure.
Yeah, and certainly some, they could just do somewhere they can do a coach from Widnes. That's what they need to do.
Oh, this is a championship story that snuck into the League One section. The next one, I apologise for that.
So York have signed another bunch of York signings. They've signed young Joe, Daniel Barco and Harry Dodd from Wakefield for 2021, hooker or halfback Barco, and who is 20, and forward Dodd, who's 19. Both came through the academy at Troon.
And probably the biggest League One signing story of the last week is Barrow have signed former Warrington forward Ben Harrison ahead of the 2021 season. The 32-year-old made more than 200 appearances for the Wolves between 2006 and 2016, but has been out of the game now for a couple of years. Harrison, who earned 3 caps each for England and Ireland, has 3 Challenge Cup winners' medals and a League Leaders' Shield winning campaign to his name. He also a 2-time Super League Grand Finalist, so someone with a lot of experience, was a high caliber player in his time. It's his hometown club, so that's probably what's enticed him out of retirement for Ben Harrison to play part-time for Barrow next year. But it's a really interesting signing, and I think he should go well. You'd expect he's kept himself in good enough shape. He never seemed like one to not be willing to do the hard work, did he? No,
exactly. Hard working is what comes to mind. And I think he'll fit in well in that Barrow side, which has got some blend of grafters and some young players in there, and I think they're definitely one to watch. So the RFL has a new safeguarding manager with impressive rugby league pedigree, and they're determined to maintain the standards that earned high praise from the Child Protection Sport Unit earlier this year. Kerry Simmons has been involved in the community game for the best part of 2 decades, and the club welfare officer officer Oral St James for the last 4 years. She comes to the RFL from SHAP, a charity which was registered as St Helens Accommodation Project in 1985 and has expanded from Merseyside and Cheshire, providing accommodation support to young and vulnerable people. Kerry succeeds Colette Eden, who stood down earlier this year after decades outstanding service, culminating in the rating of very good, the highest of the 5 grades awarded to NGBs in the annual safeguarding audit conducted by the CPSU. So good news all there.
Yeah, it should be reassuring for parents with kids that there's in the game that they've brought someone else in, someone new in with such experience and credentials. Wales Rugby League club season in 2020 has been cancelled due to the difficulties caused by the coronavirus pandemic. No structured or organised club rugby league training or playing activity, either indoors or outdoors, and including wheelchair rugby, can take place in Wales until the 1st of December 2020. So Wales Rugby League will then review the restart date nearer the time if needed. Full-time professional and elite pathways are exempt from this ruling. Elite Rugby League activity encompasses representative programmes such as Wales international sides, regional representative sides, and the Wales Rugby League National Development Academy at Coleg Simode, whatever. But some Welsh college. But yeah, so basically anything that the national teams put together can still go ahead, but everything else isn't going to be going ahead this year.
Yeah, so it seems like a pragmatic decision just to give everybody some breathing room. Sad that it's come to that, but with the state of the rules in Wales being a bit more restrictive than they are this side of the border, and the general state of it, it was felt that rugby should be secondary to that sort of activity. I don't know what the state of rugby union is, what they're doing, so there is a slight problem there, but I think it's a sensible decision to make a graceful retreat and marshal again for next year.
Yep.
And finally, Rugby Football League Chief Executive Ralph Rimmer has urged the government to reconsider plans to delay the return of crowds at games beyond the 1st of October. Rimmer said the game is ready to host socially distanced, limited crowds, and he also highlighted the financial need for clubs to be able to welcome back fans with a potential impact of revenues of up to £2 million a week. Football's Premier League have written to the government expressing concerns at a potential rethink. Last Wednesday, the Prime Minister Boris Johnson said plans for spectators to attend sporting events in England from 1st of October are to be reviewed after the recent rise in coronavirus cases.
I mean, everything is having to be reviewed now again, isn't it? It is worrying for our clubs. I mean, when you've got Premier League clubs coming out talking about how worrying it is for themselves, our clubs sit a long way down the chain from Premier League clubs. It seems like the £16 million loan is going to have to come into effect for some of the clubs here now. That the government gave to Rugby League back earlier on in the pandemic, because everyone's been operating on the basis of we can get people in the grounds from the end of September, start of October, and it feels like that's up in the air. Certainly, I don't think clubs can be making concrete plans for this to be happening now, and any plans that they can make, it might not even be they can get as many people in as they were originally hoping to get in. So it's a little bit concerning, but we've still got a few weeks to go here, and so things could swing around. But what I would say to everyone is follow the laws and guidelines that are out there as well as you can, because what we want to restrict is an exponential growth in number of cases in Rugby League towns and cities that will give more fuel to the fire of not getting people in the grounds. That's one thing we can do as a Rugby League community, I think, is wear your mask at the shop, wash your hands before and after you go in and out of somewhere, and be sensible and safe around the rules.
And follow that rule of six. It's what we've been asked to do. So unfortunately, we have to do everything we can to get back in a stadium. So that's part of it.
I think it is, yeah. But there was a game where people were back in the stadium that we're going to talk about when we get onto our Super League match reviews. So
that fits very nicely, doesn't it?
Yeah, so that's all the news. If you do want to get in your fan views on any of the news topics we talked about this week, you can send them in still, and we'll discuss them next week, or any stories that come up during the next week in Rugby League. Look out for the link to the Google fan form and send in your views on the week's news. But we're now going to move on to the Super League match reviews. Round 12 Super League match reviews. We have a full round of Super League games to talk about. Well, a full round in these days. 5 games were scheduled, 5 games were completed, which is great to see. The first of those games was on Thursday night, Hull FC versus Wakefield. It was 14-13 at half time to Hull FC, one of those odd score lines. It finished 26-23 for the Black and Whites to pick up a win here. Marcus Griffiths was the referee. In terms of the stats, metre stats were close, like the scoreboard, less than 50 in it and 0.1 metres per carry in it, so negligible. Wakefield actually had more breaks, 4 more, but scored 1 fewer try. The only key stats Hull FC won on was tackle success rate, and of course the keyest of the key, the scoreboard. Individually, Joe Cater made 50 tackles, 11 mark tackles, no missed tackles, 135 metres. Adam Swift, 2 tries, 7 tackle busts, 120 metres, 2 clean breaks. Danny Houghton, back in the starting lineup for this one, 48 tackles, 100 metres. Brad Fash, 45 tackles, 10 of which were marker tackles. Then for the losing Wakefield side, Reece Lynn 153 metres, Jordan Crowther 44 tackles, 10 of which were marker tackles, Joe Westerman 1 try assist, 123 metres and 3 successful offloads, and Kalepi Tanganoa 2 tries, 8 tackle busts, 111 metres, 4 clean breaks.
Yeah, and we had some fan views on this one, starting with Tom Andrews, who said that low quality game played by one B team and another with one eye on the cup. How long can Chester stay in a job with 5 wins in 25? And he has the audacity to blame the video ref. Now, if you can't beat that shower, you have bigger problems, Chesy.
And the one that he blamed the video ref for, he was bang out of line. So he was wrong. And this is what I don't like, when coaches come out and criticise something like that, but they can be demonstratedly be shown to be wrong. Do
you think that's a spillover of the behaviour you see in the NRL? That's quite a common sort of behaviour in the NRL, to come out and blow up at something. And do you think that's something that spills over, and coaches see that and think that that's a way to deflect?
I don't think it's unique to our sport, is it? So I think it's in coaches' nature to deflect like that, yeah. In any sport, really. And he has to deflect, like Tom points out. Such a poor record. One of the sides who hasn't picked up anything since restart as well. So yeah. Steve Pye said, our rollercoaster season continues with what can only be described as a hard-fought effort. It wasn't pretty, but given the new numbers available and rested, it never was going to be. The young players showed great enthusiasm, and I thought our attacking shape was the best it's been for a while. Back-to-back wins would be very welcome to keep the season alive.
Yeah, always in our shadow, says the boys sweated blood and hung in there in trying times. Bloody awful decision for the Simbin spot. A good Connor Wynn performance. Top show by JC.
I can't even remember the Connor Wynn Simbin.
No.
Oh, I do remember it. I think it was just before. Was it just before half time? It was. He slowed down a break down the sideline. I think he had a second effort when they were breaking down the sideline. I think that's right. Anyway,
this, like I was saying last week, this feels a long time ago. I've watched a lot of rugby since then.
Yeah, I mean, I've watched the highlights again on these games, but Connor Wynn's Simbin wasn't in the highlights that I watched either.
No, I don't. I think I did. So I don't remember.
I thought Connor Wynn had a really good game, by the way. Him and Cam Scott were the two youngsters really in this game. Jack Brown came off the bench as well, and Kieran Buchanan, but he was kind of just a body, more as much as anything else. But I do think those two young outside backs were good. They were energetic. They had some nice moments. I'd say Swift deserves some mention as well for his good finishing. He got his 2 tries and finished them quite well. I mean, the first one was a bit of a struggle, and the second one, he just about timed his dive right, so he deserves credit there, and then promptly was dropped. Well, no, not dropped, but overlooked in favour of someone else for the next game. Savelio had some nice touches, didn't he? But did he break his nose? I assume he was out injured after that performance, because he got a knock early on, didn't he? But still managed to set up a try and score a try after that.
And he had the Phantom of the Opera bandaging on, so I think he'd done something to his nose.
Yeah, I think Connor showed some decent control in this one. They got back to the natural kind of Kelly being their right-sided halfback being the free spirit, and the left-sided one doing most of the controlling in the kicking game in this game. And I think Connor did quite well to adapt into that more confined role, but did set up some stuff with some kicks and stuff. So I was quite impressed with Jake Connor, how he did sort of fit into that role and just showed a bit more maturity, which is not an adjective you necessarily associate with him, but it does seem to be something he's improved and added to his game a bit more. Definitely, yeah, I was impressed. But I mean, I'm telling you about all the other people I'm impressed with, Tim, but Joe Cater was the man of the match, wasn't he? He got the 3 Man of Steel points, Jordan Lane getting 2, Joe Westerman getting 1, and he got the 3 Albert Goldthorpe points with Tanganoa getting 2 and Savelio getting 1. So all around, everyone thought Cater was exceptional in this one, and the stats back that up as well, don't they? His energy and enthusiasm is really kind of turned around the momentum of the whole pack.
And I think that position really suits him as well, because he was Was he even a fullback or a halfback when he was first coming onto the scene?
I'm not sure. He played the last